Democrats win on health care, environment, women's rights, respect for but on those issues, I bet you that are the big ones that they vote on more: crime, immigration, wars, economy, corruption. So that's the takeaway there.
The only thing the Democratic Party stands for today is opposition to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I just read Kamala Harris's new book, 107 Days.
No, you didn't.
I did.
So, Kamala Harris just unveiled her newest literary masterpiece, an autobiography disguised as an excuse manual for losing the election. Spoiler alert, accountability didn't make the table of contents. Each page oozes with selective memories, martyr monologues, and the kind of progressive poetry that sounds deep until you actually read it twice.
When they ask who has a better plan, Republicans crushing it on crime, immigration, wars, the economy, even corruption. Democrats win by 2 points on respect for democracy. Now, some of this is just because people are stupid.
But then strides in our anti-woke gladiator, Bill Maher. Wielding his scalpel of sarcasm like a surgeon with zero anesthesia, he sliced through Kamala's alibis, revealing her true form, a bewildered, disconnected, and hopelessly theatrical politician playing dress-up as a deep thinker. Brace yourself. This incision is going to hurt.
Perpetuating victimhood, especially when it's false, is not a great advertisement for leadership. Kamala Harris's new memoir of the 24 election is called 107 Days, but it should have been called Everyone Sucks But Me. 107 Days is a victim's title because, get it, she only had 107 days to win. Yeah, and $1.5 billion, and a built-in army of about 75 million people who'd vote for any human-adjacent life form that wasn't Trump.
So Bill Maher opened fire by tearing into Kamala Harris's book title, 107 Days. According to him, that title alone is Kamala's spin artistry in action. The classic woe is me narrative about not having enough time. But Ma wasn't buying a single syllable of it. He reminded everyone that Kamala had one of the fattest campaign wallets in history, and a mainstream media that treated her like political royalty. Oh, and let's not forget the 75 million voters who'd punched the ballot for anything sporting a D badge. So, whining about only 107 days, that's not tragic. It's comedic gold. Ma basically voiced what everyone else was thinking. Kamala had every advantage in the book and still managed to faceplant spectacularly.
In 107 days, nothing is ever Kamala's fault. Biden lets her down by not stepping down sooner. Pouty face emoji. Gavin Newsom, he was asked for his endorsement, but texted, "Hiking, we'll call back." But then never did. And then he didn't even ask her to prom. America itself lets Kamala down by not being ready for the running mate she really wanted, Pete Buttigieg. So she's stuck with the Home Depot paint salesman. And the rest is herstory. Poor Kamala. We made her the star of a rom-com and didn't even give her a gay best friend.
Kamala Harris didn't just write a book. She penned a full-blown political tell-all. In its pages, she fearlessly hurls her former boss, Joe Biden, under the campaign bus, claiming he refused to step aside soon enough for her to swoop in and save democracy. She even sprinkles in not-so-subtle jabs about his mental fog. Loyalty had never heard of her. But Kamala's drama doesn't end there. She widens the blame game, wagging a finger at America itself for not being ready for a female president. Because why face reflection when deflection works fine? And just when you think the plot can't twist any further? She blames the whole fiasco on not landing her dream sidekick, Pete Buttigieg. Classic Kamala move. When the mirror gets uncomfortable, aim for the nearest scapegoat.
Kamala writes that on election night, when it was clear she'd lost, an aide peeled the words "Madam President" off the cupcakes before handing them out. Oh, geez, that's like a scene from Bridget Jones Runs for President, for Christ's sake.
Now, this part belongs in the Comedy Hall of Fame. Kamala actually pins part of her downfall on, wait for it, one of her own aides, who dared to peel off the president's stickers from cupcakes before handing them to voters. Apparently, that sugary betrayal was the butterfly effect that doomed her entire campaign. But here's the plot twist. The aide only did it because by then, it was glaringly obvious Kamala had already lost to Donald Trump. So yes, cupcakes have now entered the annals of political tragedy. Ma couldn't resist laughing at the sheer lunacy of it. While everyone else saw a campaign crashing and burning, Kamala saw a frosting conspiracy. You couldn't script this level of delusion. But she somehow did.
Look, ladies, I know this isn't fair, but we're all always running against the worst cliche of who people think we are. Women Democrats can't look oversensitive or preachy or unable to laugh at themselves. They also can't look silly, like Gretchen Whitmer did, trying to hide in the Oval Office. They have to look brave and strong.
And that's exactly right. The women of the DNC have meticulously engineered this image of themselves as unbreakable. Fearless Amazon, who never shed a tear, never blinked, and certainly never admitted a crack in the armor. It's all about the optics of dominance, not the honesty of humanity. They strut out the Iron Lady Act, desperate to be seen as statues of composure rather than living, breathing people. But let's be real, it's all theater. Beneath those perfect smiles and telepromptered pep talks is a frantic need to prove they're tough enough for a man's game. They smother every trace of softness, convinced that empathy is fatal to power. And yet, that's the delicious irony. Like in trying so hard to seem bulletproof, they only end up looking more robotic. Real strength isn't in pretending to be made of steel. It's in daring to be human.
It wasn't a good look for the woman party that all the guys were speaking out for Jimmy Kimmel when Trump went after him, except on the woman show, where for 5 days the outspoken hosts were suddenly as quiet as a geisha.
And now, if you're curious why Bill Maher went after the ladies of The View, here's the juicy backstory. They took the first swing, mocking his comments after he dared to ask why they'd suddenly gone mute over the whole Jimmy Kimmel debacle. But Ma being Ma, he wasn't about to eat that punch in silence. He called out their so-called courage for what it really was, theater and daytime TV form. When Kimmel got suspended, whispers swirled that The View might be next in line for cancellation. And just like that, the normally thunderous panel turned into a choir of crickets. No hot takes, no moral stands, just strategic silence. But the moment word spread that Kimmel was returning, poof. Their opinions came roaring back, polished and defiant. Ma nailed it. Their bravery only kicks in once it's officially safe to be brave.
Then on the 5th day, they rose and said, "No one silences us. No one had to. You silenced yourself." Whoopi Goldberg continued, "Did you all really think we weren't going to talk about Jimmy Kimmel? No, I thought you would, but then you didn't." 5 days? Talk about needing extra time to get ready. And if you can't take a breath and laugh at that, you're making my point for.
Sunny Hostin, Whoopi Goldberg, and Ana Navarro are practically the poster children for selective courage. Bold when it's fashionable, mute when it's dangerous. These women have made entire careers out of outrage, wielding cancel culture like a cudgel against anyone who dares think differently. But the second the flamethrower swivels in their direction, they morph into careful diplomats, suddenly allergic to the same moral fury they once championed. They know exactly how brutal a cancellation can be. They've orchestrated enough of them, and now, irony of ironies, they tiptoe to avoid becoming the next sacrifice. It's poetic in a tragic comedy sort of way. The Justice Crusaders trembling before their own creation. Yet, here's the kicker. They are still happily sicking that mob on others day after day. Their hypocrisy isn't subtle. It's practically Broadway level, choreographed, polished, and broadcast in HD.
New polling came out, and this is really, I'm speaking to the Democrats especially here, because Trump's numbers are down. They're down with Latinos, they're down with blacks, they're down 15 points with whites. And when whites say, "You're not hip anymore," ooh. And yet, in the other poll, on issues, Trump still winning. So this is your big opportunity, Democrats. He's down in the numbers, and you still can't score.
The DNC just can't seem to get its act together. And the list of reasons reads like a tragic sequel. There's no real leader at the helm, no voice strong enough to inspire faith or steer the ship through the storm. Instead, the party's marooned in its own echo chamber, still dancing to the tune of the fringe woke left. It's a political terrarium, where groupthink grows like mold, and any spark of dissent gets stomped out before it catches fire. Rather than face reality, They're clinging to fantasy, mistaking hashtags for game plans. And just to spice up the dysfunction, Kamala Harris has now taken to tossing her own party under the bus. Instead of owning up to one of the most spectacular faceplants in DNC history, she's busy playing the blame symphony and editing the past. It's chaos masquerading as leadership. And the Democrats are footing the bill.
Democrats win by 2 points on respect for democracy. Now, some of this is just because people are stupid. 2 points on respect for democracy. Democrats win on healthcare, environment, women's rights, respect for democracy. But on those issues, I bet you that are the big ones that they vote on more: crime, immigration, wars, economy, corruption.
When it comes to pure popularity points, sure, Donald Trump might be slipping a little. And honestly, who's shocked? Keeping up rock star level momentum after an unprecedented political resurrection is like trying to sprint a marathon, exhausting even for the Donald. But here's the twist. While the polls wobble, Trump still rules the scoreboard where it counts. The kitchen table issues that actually haunt voters at 2 a.m. On the economy, he's still the guy working-class Americans associate with cheaper groceries and fatter paychecks. On the border, he's the only one who sounds like he actually means business. And on the world stage, his unapologetic America First drumbeat still echoes loud. So no, Trump may never win a popularity contest at brunch, but when it comes to performance, he's still lapping the field.
Democrats win on healthcare, environment, women's rights, respect for democracy. But on those issues, I bet you that are the big ones that they vote on more: crime, immigration, wars, economy, corruption. So that's the takeaway there.
The only thing the Democratic Party stands for today is opposition to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I just read Kamala Harris's new book, 107 Days.
No, you didn't.
I did?
No, you didn't.
I'd
I'll say a lot of lies on this show, but I won't take that. I will not accept that.
Honestly, that's the Democratic Party's whole playbook these days. The Eternal Stop Trump Tour. That's their brand, their hobby, and their full-time gig. They've squeezed every drop of political juice out of the anti-Trump narrative like it's their only lifeline. Sure, it worked when Biden rode it to victory, the first time, but when Kamala tried to rerun that same script, voters just rolled their eyes. The country was burnt out on the non-stop Trump bashing and craving something tangible: ideas, solutions, and leadership. But when they looked to the DNC, they found an empty stage and a fog machine. No economic vision, no border plan, no direction, just recycled outrage and focus-grouped slogans. The Democrats spent years building an identity around hating one man. And now that the anger's run dry, all that's left is an echo. Hollow, leaderless, and disconnected from the voters they claim to understand.
It's like a diary of what happened, but I was looking for, okay, and what's the plan for the future? There wasn't any, and she's just indicative of the party at large. And by the way, that's one of the reasons she lost.
She's rewriting history in the book, too. She's now against men and women's sports. Like, come on. Like, they tried to dismantle Title IX against women when she was vice president.
Right. I mean, that's just one of many examples.
She could have had 701 days and would have still lost that race.
But you're right, the data says it's cost of living, it's inflation, it's immigration, illegal immigration, right. All those things. Everything else is at the bottom.
And by the way,
law and order crime.
107 days, way too many for anybody, but including her.
Right.
But the more they got to know her, the less they liked her. I've said this many times on this show. Other countries don't do this. They don't have years to run.
And Maher's dead on. The more Americans got to know Kamala Harris, the less enchanted they became. Can you really blame them? The Hollywood endorsements, the choreographed photo ops, and the awkward attempts at charm. It all felt like political theater running on fumes. Beneath the glossy lighting and buzzwords was nothing, just a fog of platitudes, wrapped around that nervous, high-pitched laugh that could shatter glass. Whenever real questions landed, she'd dodge, stammer, or launch into the now infamous Kamala cackle. It became painfully clear she wasn't ready for the pressure or the policy. Voters were hungry for something genuine, something grounded. Instead, they got a campaign built entirely on optics. Ma didn't have to destroy her. She did that herself by proving there was nothing real to find.
They call an election, and they have an election in a month.
Yeah, ignore the influence of money. We should do that. Right?
Yeah, that's going to be hard to get rid of. They've tried. Yep. But, no, it's like you don't need 100 days. You don't need 107 days. You tell people your plan. This is what I am for. This is my thing. You're selling something. You're selling a vacuum cleaner. If I'm selling a vacuum cleaner, I'll tell you why I think it's best. Am I going to tell you every goddamn day for 2 years? Did I tell you about the attachment that gets under the... Yeah, you did. You told me 1,000 times.
In the end, Mars's takedown of Kamala Harris and the Democratic establishment was a masterclass in brutal honesty, sharp, relentless, and painfully on point. The DNC stands adrift. No real leader, no resonant message, and no pulse that connects to everyday Americans. Between Kamala's Olympic-level blame-shifting, The View's performative courage, and the party's one-track obsession with Trump, it's clear the movement's lost its soul somewhere between hashtags and hubris. Ma just said what millions quietly think. The Democrats aren't losing because of Trump. They're losing in spite of him. Until they ditch the cult of wokeness and rediscover the concept of accountability, they'll keep publishing memoirs of failure instead of stories of redemption. And that's a wrap for today's video. If you got a kick out of this one, go ahead and smash that like button. Subscribe for more sharp takes. And as always, thanks for watching. See you in the next one.